Hey there, this is Della Rucker. Thank you so much for joining me today. It is about 300% humidity, and I think the proper word for the world here in Cincinnati today is sodden. And you can tell that by my hair. So in the Richard Florida doesn't have these problems category, my hair is doing all sorts of wild flip out sort of things like it likes to do when it's humid. So, we keep watching. Maybe something will just start to stick straight up in the air in a corkscrew manner. Who knows? But it has been a kind of soggy weekend. We are starting to get the famous Brood X cicadas here. I haven't seen any yet, but my friends keep reporting on them, moving farther and farther and farther north, and I figure I'm probably seeing the first one today. I had said hopefully I wasn't going to be in my office today. I am. My scheduling got all jumbled around, and I ended up being here even when I thought I wasn't going to be. So hopefully I'll get to take a field trip sometime this week. Couple of pieces of information. One is that this is sort of a last call for content for the Accelerate Us journal, which will be coming out at the end of the month, probably actually first week of June, so that we can include a piece that's become available. If the topic of this journal is new ways to network, new ways to work through connection. And if you tuned into the Accelerate Us Salon a couple of weeks ago, if you didn't, that video is available on YouTube. Just look for the Wise Economy Della Rucker YouTube channel. But this journal is going to focus on that same topic. So looking at how do we work together differently from the way we used to, and what can we get done today that we couldn't when we were sort of sticking in our own silos. So look for that to be coming out. It'll be probably the first week of June now. And I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be really interesting. It's the first issue, so who knows what will actually happen, but we'll do our best. Today's reading is from this book, The Local Economy Revolution Has Arrived, What's Changed and How You Can Help. If you like what you have been hearing on these live streams and on these videos, this is available with lots of easy reflections, sort of stories coming at things from different angles. Some are poignant, some are funny, some are a combination of the two. But you can find this book wherever you order your books, bookshop.org, your local bookstore, Amazon, wherever you get your books. So again, the Local Economy Revolution has arrived. What's changed and how you can help. So the section I'm going to read today is a slight bit longer than the last couple, but it's one that I think is really important, especially coming on the heels of the questions about how do we, how should a consultant behave? How do we interact if we are in a consulting or an expert role? How do we interact with the communities around us? So the last time I was on here, I read the 3 Ds of Terrible Public Engagement. Before that, I did the story of Victor Gruen and his really failed malls in Green Bay, Wisconsin, but also across much of the United States. So after having bashed on consultants a bit, let's talk about what they should be doing in this incoming fusion era. And to be clear, that fusion era is the kind of economic, social era that we're moving into, similar to the industrial era, which we all heard about through history books, but has really been the era that we have lived and come up with to this point. We're in a process now of transitioning to a new era. Some people call it the fourth industrial revolution. Some people call it the network revolution. I've taken to calling it the fusion era because I think a key characteristic is things coming together and really being joined together in a very intimate way that changes and creates something new. So it's not just an add-on, but it's creating something legitimately new. And that's really what this chapter is about, is using the tools and the tricks of consulting to create legitimately new ways to solve some of the problems that we haven't done a very good job of solving yet. What a consultant is good for. Della, you keep beating up on consultants. You've been a consultant for close to 25 years. You still make money consulting. You like to eat, don't you? Starting to understand why I might not be the biggest money maker among consultants. Traditional consulting relies on the expectation of the know-it-all expert, the glossy genius in the sweeping cape who tells you exactly what your town needs and withers you with his glare if you dare to question him. The guy with all the answers, the oracle, the fixer, the big name. But here's the problem. We all know how many times the people that we or our predecessors thought were experts in the past turned out to be wrong. Sometimes badly wrong, sometimes painfully decades long wrong. The kind of wrong that we spend generations trying to dig out of, and that the people we did them to try to heal from. And yet, we buy the next set of promises, the next expert, the next promised easy answer, wrapped in a flowing aristocratic cape. Naveen Jain laid out the basic problem in a previous chapter. It's essentially a problem of methodology. Traditional experts rely on historical trends, on what worked in the past, and often on their own, often unexamined assumptions. That's how we define an expert, after all. How many years have you been doing this? How many projects have you done that are just like ours? Problem is this. If much of what has been done in our consultants' lifetimes hasn't worked, if much of it didn't really do what we hoped for, and if the challenges that we're facing now are wicked and complex and new and interrelated, then what makes us think that a past book of experience alone counts for very much? Part of what gets me so mad is that neither the consultants nor the people who hire consultants admit or face up to these limitations. Both sides keep pretending. One side that it has all the answers, and the other side that there are simple answers to be had. In their guts, both sides have to know that neither charade is true. Or maybe they don't know that. Maybe they know, but they don't want to know. Do they? Now I'm not sure what to get madder about. Years ago, I managed comprehensive planning projects for a consulting firm. When you start one of those, you get to review pretty much every plan that town has ever done. Sometimes what you find yourself reviewing is a case history in delusion. One community struggling to find a bright future for a rundown suburban strip spent a huge sum on a beautiful drawing of lovely new buildings lining the streets. They bought a rudimentary market analysis that indicated nothing about whether the lovely buildings could ever be funded through the private investment that the drawing promised. And then the community threw significant sums of money and effort into finding those people who would build this grand vision. 20 years later, corridor hasn't changed, except for continuing to fall apart. I drove down it last week. Now, if you're a former client of mine and you think I'm talking about your town, probably not. I can tell that same story in about 15 different communities. So, consultant as wizard doesn't work. Should you ditch them entirely? Just rely on yourselves, figure it all out the best you can? Are those non-experts enough? No, the chances are you definitely need some outside help. You just need a different type of help than many consultants have been giving. In this era, I think an intellectually truthful, community benefiting consultant has to hang up the cape, drop the all-knowing charade, and take on jobs like these. Number one, guide through the unknown. Adventurers like Robert Peary, who trekked to places people had never been, took people with them who had experience in that type of environment, although not in that exact situation. Chances are that you, Ms. Consultant, don't know the path any better than they do, but you've at least moved through an environment somewhat like this before. So we don't charge into the underbrush pretending that we know where all the rocks and rattlesnakes lie, but we walk with the community and we help them figure out how to best navigate this terrain. Number two, framework builder. When we can't plug and play easy solutions, when we have to find our way through unknown territory, building mental frameworks that give us a way to evaluate options, think through the potential impacts of our choices, and plan ahead for risks becomes essential. A consultant's experience can help build intelligent and flexible frameworks. But a framework is not a blueprint, and it's not a magic solution. It recognizes that it might be wrong, and that it might have to shift and evolve over time. It's an exercise in managing uncertainty with the best intelligence we can bring to the table. And since the framework is designed to enable shifting and evolving, it might actually continue to fit more than 3 weeks after the consultant's last bill gets paid. Number three, tough question asker. People who lead communities often fail to ask the really hard questions. You know, the unpleasant ones where we suspect the answers are not what we want to hear, or where the answers aren't clear at all. In far, far too many cases, communities get into deep trouble because no one asked the hard questions. Either because no one knew what to ask, or because no one summoned the bravery to do it. by rights and as a matter of integrity, the consultant should be the one to ask the hard questions when no one else can or will do it. After all, the consultant is the one who gets to go home to somewhere else after the meeting is over. More importantly, though, the consultant can draw on that expertise, that guiding capacity, to call out and articulate the questions that no one from the community can or wants to own. But too many consultants never ask the tough questions because they don't want to piss off the client. They don't want to knock themselves out of consideration for the next project. Mostly because at the end of the day, consultants really deeply want you to like them. So we let the client believe what they want to believe, and we avoid the problems that they don't want to face. After all, the consultant is the one who gets to go home to somewhere else when the meeting is over. And there's always another one, some town somewhere else, where we can proclaim that this project was fantastic somewhere around the bend. Number 4, decision pusher. Communities often don't ask tough questions, and a lot of them try to avoid making decisions. That's where the laundry list plan failure, where you just list everything that everybody possibly wants to do, where that comes in, as well as a lot of other problems ranging from underfunded pensions to crumbling water lines. Decisions are hard, you know? They mean saying yes to some things and no to others. And we won't even talk about setting priorities. Oh, the consultant's job has to include guiding, structuring, pushing, cajoling a community to make its decisions. It just has to. It has to be done. And I don't know an honest consultant who hasn't been around the block enough times to know that in their guts. If the community doesn't make those important decisions, if we haven't done everything in your power to get them to do it, I don't think we've earned our fee. If they flat out refuse, so be it. But too often, when we have the experience and the framework to make out the rocks in the water ahead, we're too timid to tell the captains that they have to change the course. Consultants don't want to push people to make decisions either, for all the same reasons as above. But unless they do, that effort is probably wasted. Communities definitely need consultants. The difference I see is this. The consultant that communities need is a collaborator, a fellow seeker who brings a new set of expertise, a new collection of tools to the work of improving the community. We who do consulting work for communities have to deeply rethink what we provide as consultants. And we who work with consultants have to deeply rethink what we demand from them. Settling for a pretty picture of an imagined future, or a kumbaya list of all the happy things everyone in town said they wanted, is worse than a waste of money. It's setting up the community for a future crushing of hope, a long-term trend of growing cynicism and increasing tuning out. And it's setting up the community for very painful opportunity costs. Wasted resources chasing unachievable pipe dreams. Letting a community persist in mistaken optimism or pessimism or inertia is not morally, ethically, or fiscally acceptable for consultants or for people who care about their communities. We simply don't have that much slack in the system anymore. Consultants should and must help a community fill the gaps in its capacity to make wise choices and tough decisions possible. So again, that's a selection from this book, The Local Economy Revolution Has Arrived, What's Changed and How You Can Help. Available to order wherever you get your books in either physical or digital content stuff. You can get it digitally, you can get it physically, whichever you want. So thanks again. It has gotten much darker while we've been talking, and I think we got a good storm coming. So we'll see what happens. For those of you who have never seen a cicada before, you'll probably get lots of chances to see them from your friends in the Midwest, but I will try to, as much as I hate the things, I'll try to pop one up here so that you can see what all the fuss is about. In the meantime, not today. I don't think they're out here yet. In the meantime, thanks again for joining me, and go get them. Thanks.